Good morning, everyone. All right, okay.
Oh, maybe.
Yep.
Hello. Where is Chris? Good morning, everyone. The quarterly meeting of the Executive Committee for the Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council will now come to order. How's everyone doing? Okay? It's hump day. Will Miss Ebony, please give us the roll call for attendance?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Johano,
Here.
Ms. Brooke Stewart, she's on her way. Ms. Renata Washington. Here. Ms. Angela Harmon. And Ms. Christy Gonzalez.
Here.
You have three and you have a quorum.
Okay. At this time, we will have Ms. Haven read the mission statement and the ground rules.
The council's mission is to increase independence, self-determination, productivity, integration, and inclusion for Louisianians with developmental disabilities by engaging in advocacy, capacity building, and systems. And then, Christy, the ground rules are on your paper.
This one.
Yeah, so you can go through your ground rules, the one that I gave you. So it'll have the new updated protocol.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
The one at the top?
Yep.
Okay. Mhm. Oh, a folder. Yes, we can get you one.
They're supposed to be making.
They're making more.
Okay. Here are some of the new rules. For committee members and members of public attending in person, please raise your hand to speak and wait to be recognized by the chair before speaking. To help the meeting run smoothly, please keep side conversations to a minimum and comments related to the topic we are discussing. For those committee members who are attending virtually, remember you must be on camera and have your first and last name showing to be counted toward our quorum. Please keep microphones muted unless called upon by the chair. Electronically raise your hand to request to speak and wait to be called on by the chair. For attendees, electronically raise your hand to request to speak. Once recognized by the chair, your microphone will be turned on. After speaking, the microphone will be returned to mute. Also, the question and answering and chat is to only be used by those needing an ADA accommodation to participate in the meeting. Public comment will not be accepted via the Q&A and chat except for those individuals who requested the accommodation. As for order, committee members in person and virtually will be allowed to speak first. Public members in person will then be called on, followed by public participating virtually who have their hands raised. Comments in the question and answering in chat will be addressed last. As with all hybrid meetings, it can be difficult to keep track of those who wanting to speak in person and virtually. Please be patient. All comments and questions from committee members and public may be limited to 3 minutes or less should we run into time constraints. So please keep that in mind. Also, comments about a person's character will not be allowed. Finally, members of the public will have the opportunity to provide public comment before each vote and during designated public comment periods. The chair may also use their discretion to determine if comments will be accepted outside of those times. Right. The next item of business is the approval of the meeting summary for the April 3rd Executive Committee meeting, which was distributed. The meeting summary will not be read unless requested by a member. Are there any corrections?
Yes. Was that covered?
Yes.
Was that counted on the roll?
So this is the executive committee, Eric, and so it's just the officers. This committee is just the officers of the council. So you're not on the committee, you're still a council member, but you're not on this committee. So I promise you'll be counted for the committees that you are a part of.
Okay. If there is no objection, the meeting summary is approved as distributed. Hearing none, the meeting summary is approved. The next item of business is the executive director salary determination. Right? You got it, Jerry?
Yes.
Right.
It's at the wall of the,
I was.
but I did.
Yeah. Is there any objection for us going to the executive session? If, okay, there's no objection, we'll go into executive session. And we are now in executive session since none.
Are we
Executive session is now over and we will now come to order. All right, we will now entertain, yes. The next item of business is the executive director's salary determination. And I just want to go over some things that we've been going over for the past year and trying to make a salary determination. In January, the council needed additional information to make a decision about the executive director's salary and requested that the decision be sent back to the executive committee. So we included in the packet and linked to the agenda is the original information that Ms. Haven provided for the January meeting and additional information that was requested from Dr. Baravecchio. The vice chair and I had a meeting with Ms. Haven on February 21st and decided it was not fair to ask her to complete her own research for her own salary, right? Especially after she provided the information for the January meeting in the time frame we requested, we were not able to reach a decision. So she did then provide information about the previous ED salary, along with our current staff salaries, which can be found on the Board of Commission's website. The budget is also included on the website through March 2024, and sources which were included in the original documents, right? Jill and I were responsible for obtaining the additional information from Dr. Baravecchio and researching Southern Region ED salary ranges. So to give you further explanation on the information that we sent out in January, it's in your packet and linked to the agenda. Okay. We've included the executive director's job description, which includes the ED's role, responsibilities, and essential requirements. The Excel spreadsheet, which has the council information with similar allotments to Louisiana and includes information on DD councils that have similar federal allotments to Louisiana. This document was provided in lieu of the Southern Region Executive Director and other EDs in the state salary ranges because it's very difficult to compare ED positions. There are an abundance of ED positions with different roles and responsibilities, so we're comparing them to this position would not have been a fair comparison. The Louisiana State Civil Service Compensation Manager also informed Ms. Haven that civil service only has salary ranges for unclassified ED positions. There is a wide variety of EDs in the state government who are responsible for entities of varying size, scope, and organizational structure. Therefore, it's difficult to make accurate comparisons. For this reason, Ms. Haven provided the Excel spreadsheet with councils of similar allotment to Louisiana. That's the long one.
Never mind.
Yeah. We know that each executive director of every DD council has very similar, if not the same duties, and can be compared to the ED position for the Louisiana DD Council. Therefore, the Excel spreadsheet provides thorough information about each of the councils with similar allotments so that fair comparisons can be made when discussing salaries. The additional considerations document included in your packet also includes information Ms. Haven gathered during the current budget for salaries and information I just stated from the state civil service. At the January meeting, Dr. Baravecchio stated that she would provide a tip sheet on salary calculations that outlines a systemic method for identifying civil service equivalent roles and calculating pay for contract staff positions. She also provided the resource for the administrative pay schedule that a classified ED position could fall under. However, we must take into consideration that the ED position is unclassified and the duties are very unique to this position. Based on this information, I would like to open the floor to discussion or questions from the committee. Anybody? Yes. Oh. Is it Eric? Oh. Yes, Eric.
When you say based on this decision, that means it's totally up to us to speak on the raise
Mhm.
or what? I'm not understanding what you're doing.
Well, it's been over a year and we have, many people in the council have been requesting a salary for Ms. Haven. So, they've been coming back, but they've been requesting more information. So this is what we're giving them for her salary to make that allotment.
Okay,
Brooke?
okay.
So,
Go ahead, Brooke.
so I would like to move that we recommend to the council salary range of $115,000 to $130,000 for Ebony Haven as the executive director of the LADDC.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Second on the range.
Mhm. Is there any debate from committee members? No? No. Is there any public comment?
We have one hand raised, Ms. Kathy Dwyer.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few questions. Does any of the information that was provided about salaries include number of years those positions or those people held? Because a beginning salary versus someone who's been there 5, 10, 15, 20 years can make a difference. So I think that is a consideration that the
Yeah, it's
council
on here.
must take into.
Mhm.
Okay. And
Yes, it's on the page. Mhm.
additionally, is is the council still doing a national search, or has that been decided? Because I know I haven't been able to attend all meetings.
Well, can I
Yes.
answer?
Go ahead, Jen.
Ms. Kathy, I don't know if it was January, and Ebony, no disrespect, but like, I don't know what meeting it was, but I know that we did learn, because I specifically remember if we're offering under a certain, we decided at a council, if we're offering under a certain amount, that we would not do a national search, and we, does anyone remember?
No, I think it was November.
If I may, I remember at a DD council meeting, Dr. Phil Wilson, who's the executive director of the Human Development Center, expressed concern about not doing a national search. And I thought that it was agreed to do one, unless I missed something since then.
Just for clarity, if I'm not mistaken, it was the October meeting. The council already voted to hire Ebony as the executive director. The holdup has been the salary, which was supposed to be addressed in January. It was not, so it's coming back this quarterly meeting. So the motion to actually hire her as the director is already passed. The conversation.
Okay, that's what I wasn't sure of.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and I have one more question, or maybe two. How many years has Ebony been with the DD Council?
Ebony, yeah, you can answer.
I've been here for 5.5 years.
And roughly maybe one as acting or executive director?
No,
I think it's close to, it's 7 months.
7 months, okay.
And I was the deputy before then.
Right. Given that information, I would suggest that the lower end of the salary be given, considering, it's not an extensive amount of experience with the DD Council.
okay, we'll take that into consideration. Thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay. So, let me see what mine. All right, are you ready for the question, everyone? The question is, The executive committee recommends a salary range of $115,000 to $130,000 for the executive director, made by Brooke Stewart, seconded by Jill Hano. All right. When Ms. Haven calls your name, please respond with yes if you're in favor of the motion, or no if you're opposed to the motion, or abstain if you're not voting.
Okay, Ms. Jill Hano,
No, but yes.
Ms. Jill Hano, yes. Ms. Brooke Stewart,
Yes.
Ms. Brooke Stewart, yes. Ms. Renata Washington.
Yes.
Ms. Renata Washington, yes, and Ms. Harmon is absent. So that's 3 yeses.
Okay. The yes votes have it and the motion is adopted. Right. The next item is the legislative advocacy agenda process. We will examine the current process for selecting the legislative advocacy agenda and then discuss possible changes to the process. All right. Britton, would you like to start the discussion?
All we have for that is this, right? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically to get feedback from y'all if y'all had any ideas of how we should go about developing the advocacy agenda. So especially over the last few years, typically the process, once summer is here and the legislative session ends, the LaCan leaders have community input meetings. That was something the council implemented some years ago, to do these community input meetings, to bring in ideas of things that they think the council should consider for their agenda, and the council sets its agenda in October. The issue we have there is between when they start doing those community input meetings, which is usually like August timeframe, they get together in September, they meaning the directors, FHF directors, Families Helping Families directors, and LaCan leaders. And they come up with what they think their recommended items, based on the feedback that they've gotten in their center or in their region, what they think the council should consider. A few things to note there. They usually go anywhere between 3 to 5 agenda items at most, depending on what those items are. Because there's a lot of work that is involved in these particular agenda items. There are days at the Capitol, there are action alerts, there are legislative visits on all these issues. So they have found that any more than that amount of issues, it becomes complicated. It's a little too much. And we've seen the more things that we push out, the more of our LaCan members stop responding to things, because I think they get overwhelmed sometimes. And then that recommendation will go to the council. It is strictly a recommendation. Our leaders and our directors are well aware, and we try to communicate that as well at those community input meetings. And all these things are just recommendations. It is the council advocacy agenda. So you should set what that agenda is. Unfortunately, one of our barriers is we have very minimal, and I mean very minimal, involvement from our council members in community input meetings, in LaCan, in understanding these issues. So that creates a barrier there. Then you're coming into this October meeting with 100+ issues that staff, leaders, directors, we don't have within a month, especially when we're trying to prepare for this agenda or the council meeting in October. We don't have the time to research 100+ issues the way it needs to be researched to determine what exactly we should do. A lot of times you also have to consider we're looking at partners for that information. So if we, our agenda item this year, one of the items is for the increase in the night rate for waiver services. We don't have that information. We have to go to the department. We have to wait for the department to provide us with that information and feedback. And so we then hit their time frames, their schedule. And so that makes things kind of complicated as well. So we tend to do as much research and get information as we can on maybe their like top 10 that they come up with. They do a ranking of all and by day, again, the directors and leaders, they do a ranking of all these issues. Because another thing out of those 100+ issues you get, a lot of them are not system change legislative fixes. It might be an isolated issue. It's happening in your town, your parish. It's not a statewide issue.
Okay.
Or there might not be anything that we think we could do legislatively. You know, for instance, one of those things, you know, our housing and transportation, we know in Louisiana is always a barrier.
Mhm.
But we haven't figured out the exact path legislatively of how you fix that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean the issue isn't there. So those are things we're looking at. You also have to look at the feasibility of things. We do try to provide information, like I can tell y'all now. They are already anticipating next year during legislative session, we're gonna deal with a fiscal cliff. Funding is probably going to be something very difficult to do next year. So do we start looking at things maybe on more of the administrative side? So those are things we try to explain to you. We try to help leaders, directors, and council members understand. But especially over the last few years, the agenda has taken almost all of our October meeting to try to come up with, and then the agenda changes because we get more information. The executive committee comes in, has to make decisions. So the agenda then changes in January. And so there's just not enough time
Mhm.
to really make thought out decisions about our agenda. And for something so important as a legislative agenda, we really need to figure out a process that allows us to do that.
Start earlier.
What process can we really consolidate these ideas? Again, it's very difficult to go through 100+ ideas,
Mhm.
but how do we figure out what are the most important ideas? What are the most important things that are going on?
Mhm.
Are the community input meetings working? I mean, some regions it works well, some regions it doesn't. We try to offer virtual and in-person opportunities to get as many people involved as we can. And then also, how do we fix the stagnancy that is our council members? Not necessarily putting y'all on the spot, but the council as a whole does not go on legislative visits, does not take action on action alerts, does not really participate in community input meetings. That's also a barrier because then you're not able to talk about the things that you're hearing. So we're looking for advice, feedback, things that we can consider of how we should go about setting our agenda. What's gonna get you the information you need to make educated decisions? Because when you make this decision in October, we've got about 3 months to come up and create with all our materials that we could do. Because after the holidays, we gotta start legislative visits, we gotta start roundtables, we gotta start going to the Capitol.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we're looking for.
So we start this when?
Generally, late summer, like,
Summer.
session typically ends early June. It takes a little while for, all the legislation to be signed and for us to really get an idea of directors and leaders to provide them with information on how the session went. How's your membership doing as far as advocacy?
Okay.
And then they take that information and they start rolling into community input
Okay.
meetings, which is usually the August timeframe. And then September is whenever they start coming up with their kickoff.
So, and we have to have it for October or September.
Your October meeting is
So when-
traditionally when
okay.
you create your agenda.
So we need it before October, right?
Yeah, all this has to come in before October,
October.
because mid-October, you're discussing all of these
October
issues.
Okay.
So kick off in the,
Mhm.
kick off in community input is before the October, okay.
Mhm.
And then obviously you accept input as well at the October meeting too, for
Okay.
people to comment on those.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
I have some ideas, for what Brennan was asking. I know personally, I really wish that I would have taken partners in policy making. I think that maybe we should look back on the bylaws and consider making that a requirement of new council members,
Okay.
if possible.
Well, I know that our natural, I feel so old because every time something comes up, I'm like, I was in the room. But like, you were with me, I think, we had a national and I don't know if this is what you're asking, but we had, someone come from nationals to discuss with our council back in the day, cause we had on our plan to support 2 council members every year for partners in nationals. Highly suggested that we take that item off because it was a conflict of interest since we're a funding partner, since we are a funding source for PIP.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that was a few years ago, I think, that they.
Yes, go ahead.
I would just like to add, so all of the council members as well, Lauren, are volunteers. So we can't make anything we can't make anything mandatory,
Mandatory.
sorry, for volunteer members.
Oh, well, I just said I don't know if we could do it like to be considered to be on the council.
Like a recommendation, maybe?
So whenever the membership committee does meet, that information, like for any applicants that are applying, we provide that information to the membership committee. Like if they are partners graduate, if they participated in LaCan, we even go so far as to look back at years past to see if they responded to action alerts, if they went on any legislative visits, if they attended any yellow shirt days. So just to see if they've been active in advocacy, you can look at that before you make a determination for membership.
And I always, when I go through my applications, that is one of the first things I personally look at is, did they go through partners in in our status report? It tells me how many partners graduates. It did tell me how many partners graduates are on
For this year? But it's
the council.
Yeah, it also has it in our bylaws that to have an active DD council, they take action in LaCan, LaTeach, and all that too.
Right, I was on the membership
So,
committee.
Yeah.
I just didn't know
Okay.
that we could not make that up.
Okay,
Because,
yeah, okay.
And then my other suggestion was to, I know we have a bylaws committee meeting. So maybe put things in the bylaws to support greater participation of council members. So that we can establish quorum for people, make it a little bit more stringent. Just so that we can be more effective. And maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just put some of those things in the bylaws where we're doing certain things and certain requirements, in the bylaws. But then again, if it's voluntary, I don't know.
Yeah, because one of the questions, I think they have
He suggested that you do this, and if not, we,
choose someone else. Yeah.
well, we ask you to question your, your commitment to, or if you have to get so many points of participation in your.
Yeah.
Something like that, because it makes it really challenging if we can't have a quorum
Are the same people attending all the time? Yeah,
and
out of the loop.
yeah. Okay.
I will be the first one to admit that I am not as involved with LaCan. So
And just to clarify, I wanted to bring up that point because it is, when you're involved in these things, I think it makes you understand better and be better educated when this agenda comes up. And that's why I wanted to mention it. Of course, all of our leaders really want y'all involved in everything they do. You're their connection to the full council. And so I wasn't saying it to make anybody feel bad or guilty or anything.
Well, I
However,
feel bad. Guilty.
I'm just trying to be nice, Jill, but we really need more council involvement outside of these quarterly meetings, because I think this has a snowball effect, not just on our agenda, but all decisions we make all the time. We're here for 2 days and then everybody vanishes for 3 or 4 months and then we come back together.
I mean, excuse me.
Yes, go ahead.
Even though y'all speaking about y'all would like, not y'all, speaking about it would be good for us to be involved in certain things. So basically, as you saying that would help more of us just getting out of these walls, or help more just for us, for our space to be shown that.
Yeah, so take, for example, the community input meetings that they do. So a lot of our leaders, when they come to kickoff, if we have questions about a particular item that came up, they can give us some details. Oh, this was part of the conversation. This is why it came up. This is what they talked about. Those leaders aren't necessarily always at the council meeting. There are things that happen and they can't attend the council meeting. But if you as a council member were there and you heard the issues in your region of things that are important to them, then you can think, oh, I remember who came up with that and this is why it was discussed. Or, oh, this wasn't an item, it was an item that was brought up. There was really only like one person that it really resonated with, but this item resonated with a bunch of people. And so it gives you another opportunity to better understand where that list comes from and help you prioritize that list. Because that's kind of why the leaders and directors give recommendations, because they're in those meetings. They go to the community input meetings, they host them. They're trying to let you know things that they hear about in their region. But a lot of times all those recommendations aren't accepted and y'all go in a different direction. And then that's where we start getting bogged down in some of our agenda issues, if you will. Because maybe now we have an agenda item where we can't get people involved as far as testimony or alerts, or maybe we missed something that was really important as opposed to this other issue. So I think having more people that make that decision involved in the community input aspect of it really helps when it comes to that decision-making time.
But I cut you off while you're talking, but is that something that we can come here and pick up a list of what is basically going on? And because I, as a counselor, as a member that's on the board, I call regularly to see if there's anything that needs to be attended to and see what's going on. Is it something physically here with dates and times on it? Because then if I have that physically in my hand, I can actually set this day up. Okay, I need transportation this day. So I can physically make transportation and say, okay, as a board member, I can't be here because I have a date and a time to be there.
Yeah.
And physically set up transportation. It's something here where I can.
Yeah, so we don't have dates lined up right now. We have to schedule. So some of the things we're talking about don't happen until later in the summer, early fall. So we don't have dates for those yet. But those will usually at the end of June or whenever we have our debriefing with leaders. That's when we talk about these community input meetings. And that's when they get to scheduling. So they're going to say, hey, we're going to do one on this day at this time, one this day, this time. And they can get you that information of and where it's going to be. Sometimes it's virtual, sometimes it's in person. A lot of them try to do it at different times as well, like maybe do a virtual on a Saturday and an in-person at 5 p.m. on Wednesday or something to really try to help, with time options for different schedules. Yeah. So those, you will have dates and times and things that we'll also push out and share. Our leaders and our Families Help and Family Centers are sharing this information when it gets scheduled. But I don't actually have a document right now that I can give you that says.
But you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I have to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, right.
I need to be in this day, because I'm dedicated to the board, so I need to be here that day.
Yeah.
Be committed to the board and bring things back.
And that's why we urge our leaders, and I think they do a pretty good job at it, don't decide on Monday that you want to have a meeting on Tuesday or Wednesday. Decide on Monday that you want to have a meeting in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So people can have some time. Now, that does get complicated with things like legislative visits and yellow shirt days, because those are harder to schedule long time out. And so historically, our council has not been as involved in like legislative visits or yellow shirt days if you have other jobs and responsibilities, but it hasn't been one. You know, it's been a little bit better than it's been. But even things like action alert, you do that from your house.
Yeah.
That's the
Emails.
agenda you created, but you don't even write anybody about this agenda. So you create an agenda, but you're not even pushing it out there. That's what we're trying to solve.
And cause, so if we think, if we don't know how to respond to an action alert, can we call like staff or a calendar?
They give it to you.
Because my calendar is actually very helpful with that. And when there are yellow shirt days, she'll call me and be like, hey, do you want a ride?
Mhm.
And that's exactly what should happen.
Mhm.
Right.
So props to your Lacan leader for that. That's
Props.
awesome.
Yeah,
But
that,
yeah, that's what we have our Lacan leaders for. When we push out an alert, and it even says in our alert, if you need help with this alert, here's your Lacan leader contact information.
right.
Call them, email them, you know where they live, go knock on the door, whatever it may be, because that's what they're there for, is to help you be the best advocate you can be.
Also, Mr. Eric, whenever I started a nonprofit in New Iberia for autism. When we had our cook-off, I invited Families Helping Families and Lacan to our event for families on weekend. It was a weekend thing. And a lot of people went and talked, Nicole, you can attest to that. There are people who never heard of Families Helping Families before. And even though they don't commit to something else during the week, they were able to speak to them at the weekend event. So if you know of an event that's going on, you can invite them to that event. So that can be a participation event, and if they can make it, they probably will go. You can ask them to come to that certain event to participate.
Like years ago, my sister invited me to touch the truck with her kids, and I went and I'm like, oh, this is an FHF event.
Yeah. So, Ebony.
Did somebody else?
Jill. Yeah.
You can go first.
Who?
Yeah,
Okay,
go ahead.
an interesting statement, I'm sorry. First, I was reading the bylaws, and is it true that people don't have to be on the council to be appointed to a committee? So if we had people that were interested, who maybe wanted to attend or be part of the committee, how does that work? Because perhaps they could start coming to the self-determination committee meetings, even if they're not council members.
Yeah, so that's for ad hocs, Lauren. So if we.
Right, okay,
Yeah, so if we formed an ad hoc committee, members outside of the council members, according to the bylaws right now, can be appointed to those committees. As far as standing committees, like.
Then no, okay.
As the chair of the bylaws committee, I do wanna try to make that a little more clear.
And then is there anything, in the budget, for maybe 4 council members, for transportation to certain events? Can anybody speak to that?
Not that that would
The
be.
reimbursement?
For like yellow shirt days or, yes.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we can help out with
So
travel
somebody needs it,
reimbursement
that's
for,
Mhm.
yes.
Okay, so-
For things that are council related, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, so, I mean, that might be a solution here. I don't know your situation, but, you know, if you really want to attend something, maybe, you know, I know it's hard with just regular transportation sometimes.
And if you just have a good rapport with your Lacan leader, they're very open and very willing to
Carpool.
carpool, pick you, you know, if you get in touch with them earlier or just attend any function that's reasonable in their vicinity. Mhm.
And, when the CAN members have their meetings, are like with staff and stuff like that, are those private or can council members
Mhm.
go to those too?
Yeah, you can attend, yes.
Which meeting?
Wait,
Like your community input meetings?
Input meetings.
Just, no, like
Yeah.
I know y'all have.
But the
like,
kickoff and debriefing is just us with our
Right.
LACAM leaders and
Yeah.
Families Help Families, right?
Okay.
No, yes, yes, ma'am.
So I'm looking at leader.
Oh, hello.
For the area. Our process is, it's almost like we have a disconnect.
Mhm.
A lot of what we're talking about, how to get involved with this, based on our agenda that you guys give us. And as the team leaders, we schedule these meetings and we try to give you guys at least, at least 2 weeks notice minimum. Like if we're gonna hold a community input meeting, starting at the end of August.
Mhm.
We give you a couple of weeks notice. We usually schedule in a block. So we're gonna schedule one for mid-August. We'll do it weeks, 2 weeks before back, you know, minimum,
Mhm.
probably more. And then we're gonna schedule our other ones too. So you'll probably get an email if you're on our email list,
Mhm.
like an action alert. Are y'all all getting action alerts?
Yes. Mhm.
If you're getting the action alerts, that contains our information on the meetings usually, and we'll, as a can leader, send them out to our members as well. It's all- we all have our regional member base, and we email and block a lot of times to everybody. Now, on some things, we'll pick up and call our most active members, like your leader calls you and says, "Hey, Jill, you need a ride." Like
Right.
I'll call my frequent flyers, the people that I know, you know, need extra help or who want to reach out and who are interested in doing. I'll call mine and say, "Hey, do you want to go with us? We're right along." I'll make a contact number, text or some emails, some phone calls. But we do have that list that we turn on staff. So it's almost like this is, I know all of us have like the actors to be workshops we hold.
Mhm.
And a lot of it's how to get involved as just member base.
Mhm.
But the council, usually we come to, by the time we're a council member, we've already been involved with in some capacity. Or you're, maybe you have a family member or something like that, so you're getting on our email list. But it's almost like part of that presentation that we get tells you how to, you know, watch the email alerts. Because they will, you know, the council sends out an alert. And then I know I personally will turn around and clarify and do like a simple version of here, this is what this means. This is the single contact from, say, our region. Like my region 7 reps that you would want to contact for our committee. And I'll give you like another, like a simpler version of what we're really talking about in the alert and how it pertains to us. And sometimes I'll give you my personal example so you can kind of go off that to create your response.
Okay.
But we do as leaders do try to reach out to all of our member base. We keep member lists and everything. So if you update your information with us, you should be getting our emails. And then if you have a good phone number for you, a lot of them will call and we'll let you know what I'm to say.
Okay.
So just to give you some idea of the information of the process.
Thank you. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Like with the Lacan and the action alert, is it something that they could add to the new council member orientation? So that way, when they see the action alert, they'll know, you know, it's something important to respond. I know what helped me to respond to some of them is looking at the PDF file that they, I usually go on the Louisiana council website and I look at the PDF file, you know, and there were things that I didn't know that you can actually do. Like I didn't know that you could send a public comment ahead of time. So I think like a little brief introduction of the PDF file to the new member orientation would be very beneficial.
Thank you.
And also about the community input, is there any way we could do like a survey of, because I was looking at the LaCan survey last night. Is there any way we can make it available on the website to where people could go in and complete the survey? Like just to help with the community input, like have a survey available ahead of time so people know, to share their input. And being that we work with various organizations and departments, if we can work together with them and ask them if they could put it on their website, so that way a lot of people would be aware of it.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Yes.
And I work, I speak a lot with Christina Martin, which is, the New Orleans area's, LACN. She helps me a lot when I need to complete those action items. Like if she's like, oh, send an email. And sometimes, after you're being, your mom, you're working, she always helps me out, sending me like a little template of like what I can say. She'll write it up for me and just be like, Brooke, just copy it. And, send it, forward it to me after you're done, just to show like proof that she did. So like, it will even go so far to like send you like a little template. They're really doing the legwork. They just need you to like hit the send button from your account.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Brooke.
I think kind of what I took away from what Brendan was saying, correct me if I'm wrong, what we're talking about now is kind of post, like when we have substances already, excuse the phrase. I'm thinking to me, it sounded like we needed a little shift in culture, and a shift more towards responsiveness, accountability, involvement, and that kind of happens assignment or acceptance, whatever you want to call it. So it sounds like recruitment of our membership needs to include, hey, we expect, this high level of involvement versus, hey, you're here now, this is what we expect. So, working with boards and councils and stuff, it would recruit with the highest standard versus we have a vacancy in Region 4. Okay, are you a parent, an individual, or professional? We've got, 4 standards there, but then when they get here, we see that they're not involved. It's because we've said we have quarterly meetings and do you live in this region and do you fit this demographic? Not, we have a culture of responsiveness, accountability to one another, that sort of thing. So we may want to look at that part of the process.
Okay.
And also, we're talking about partners and LaCan and all that. We know we're missing people in some of those organizations and some of those groups. So we kind of may not want to just focus on, be that hyper specific, I guess. And we're looking at, who we're bringing to the table. We want to cast our net a little bit wider. And again, with that understanding of you've got transportation needs, you've got, all of these things that kind of play into this picture. But I think post, warm body in the seat is not the time to start saying, hey, we need you to do these things.
But see, now when I roll off and reapply to the council, I might not be eligible. So you're ruining my future.
I don't know. It's pretty.
Yes.
I just want to, I am on the membership committee, and I do think like part of that interviewing process is letting them know that we do have a culture of that. Like we explain to them that we have accommodations available. Do you need any? I know that's like our last question. Like, do you need any accommodations? If so, what kind? So we can make that aware. Make that person aware of what the council has. But also, it's up to the person once they're on the committee to decide whether or not, it was a lot for me. It was very eye-opening for me. Like I thought I was, a great advocate until I got here. I'm like, wow, this is like a lot more than I thought. So it's like, I do feel like the questions they ask and, like, again, we don't even have a lot of people to interview, or when we do interview, they're not completing their interview or answering the phone. So it's like, I do think you all have done a great job with, letting our applicants know what's expected. It's just once you get here.
Do we have any recommendations to bring to the council in regards to our legislative advocacy kickoff agenda process?
I'll just make a quick statement. So
Wait.
I do think we can cover a lot of great things of how to get council members more involved, some things that we could look at. One of the other things we were hoping to accomplish today, which we didn't, so I guess this is gonna have to come back, is the actual process of developing this
Yeah.
agenda.
Yeah.
Because right now you're on track of the same process we've been doing,
Yeah,
which
so we need to come up with a
every
process
year we
of,
get a lot
yeah.
of complaints, we get a lot of issues out there that folks are aggravated with our process or how we're doing things. And so we really want to try, see if y'all had ideas.
Okay,
We
I
were,
guess that lives to see another day.
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, because we're already over.
We have a
by
10:15.
And
So-
next meeting starts at 10:15.
All right, is there any other further business? Oh, public comment, go ahead.
Ms. Kathy White.
Go ahead.
What is, are you having in the chat?
I'm
Do
sorry,
you have anything in the chat?
they checking.
The chat is used only for those that have a ADA accommodation that was submitted to us. Not just for public input, public comment.
That was me that commented in the chat because I had been patiently waiting with my hand raised. And I wanted to add that as previous chair of the OCD State Advisory Committee and also, but still a member and a member of the Jefferson Parish Regional Advisory Committee. These are two committees that I think DD Council members would benefit from greatly. You start learning in more detail about the disability services and how they work. I think had more people had more knowledge of, including LACAN members, if they attended these meetings and had more knowledge of the DD service system and how it works, I think there would not have been the confusion about the wording for the pay raise for direct support workers, because that's definitely set, I think, our whole DD community back by not addressing that. Anyway, so I would encourage everybody to attend those meetings. I also agreed with a commenter that said that there needs to be a certain amount of responsibility and accountability. I have said that to my SAC members, that they are not there just to attend meetings, that we are here to represent our community. We are supposed to bring forth any issues or problems from the community. That means we need to reach out to them. One thing I have done and I encourage members to do is share meeting information on social media or whatever, so that all your community can attend and provide public input, because you are there to serve the DD community. That's the whole purpose of the DD Council, to make sure all their needs are met. Lastly, just a matter of procedure, I would like to request more attention be made to those that are having to attend virtually. The virtual accommodation is an ADA accommodation to accommodate people with disabilities. I feel like, and I may be wrong, and I apologize if I am, I'm not necessarily making accusations, but it just seems like we sit here and wait and wait and wait and don't get to comment in the important part of the conversations that are being had when others outside of the executive committee or council that are present seem to get preference over those that are raising hands virtually. So if there's any public members present, then whoever raises their hand first, be it virtually or present at the meeting, should be called upon, not use the virtual meeting as a last people to call on. That I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, Brenton.
Just for an additional point of clarity, the protocols that the council voted on and accepted April 3rd, right? Does say that our virtual attendees will be able to raise their hands and provide comment. But as covered in the beginning of this meeting and within our protocols, we handle committee members that are in the room first, then committee members that are attending virtually. Then we handle public that is in the room, and then we go to public that is attending virtually. So I think what was done today follows the protocols that was established by the council. Just wanted to clarify it.
All right. Oh, go ahead.
I do have a question. I'm sorry. Can we, these virtual protocols that we made, can we put them in can we fit them in the bylaw somewhere?
I'm sure we can.
Okay, that's what I was,
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, wait, we're getting clarification from our parliamentarian.
In the policy and procedure, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so we can put them in the policies and procedures, but not the actual bylaws.
Okay. Okay.
Chair, we have two hands raised.
Yes, go
The
ahead.
first one is Ms. Melinda Elliott.
Go ahead, Ms. Melinda.
Hey, thanks for recognizing me. So, do I have to inform you that I need ADA accommodations, or is this good enough that I asked to speak?
Yes.
Yeah, if you need something outside of what we're able to provide, we would need to have that request so we could put it in place. But
So-
participating virtually and doing as you're doing now, raising your hand, speaking, those aren't things you have to notify us for. Now that the new rules have been published for the public meetings, virtual.
Okay, got you. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Dwyer.
Thank you. I'm just typed it in chat too, just for the record. I would like to request the committee to consider revising their protocols. I find it very disrespectful to people with disabilities who cannot attend have to wait longer than public who are present. I think there's no reason why you can't watch for people who raise their hands that need the accommodation to use the virtual meetings so that they are called upon in order with other public, whether they're virtual or present.
Okay, thank you for that statement. Right. Any other business? Right. Hearing none, if there's no objection, we will adjourn the meeting. This meeting is now adjourned. Right.